On today's episode of The Front Row, we are in the Crickets Theater at the Buddy Holly Hall, and our special guest on the program is Dr. Susan Brumfield. She is professor of music education at the Texas Tech University School of Music, and she is an internationally renowned educator, clinician, composer, conductor, teacher, everything. And she is a very, very special person to my heart, and I'm so grateful that she is on this show today. Dr. Brumfield, Susan, welcome to the Front Row.
Thank you, Clint, and thank you for coming out to Buddy Holly Hall to see us at the West Texas Kodaly Initiative.
Well, I want to get into this because this is one of your great initiatives. The other great one that everybody knows about, of course, is the West Texas Children's Chorus that you direct,
yes,
right?
Thank you.
So
and all of these things, one is the outgrowth of the other.
It's just amazing what you do, and I can't wait to unpack some of this. So we're here today because of something called the West Texas Kodaly Initiative, or something iteration of that. What is Kodaly, and what does that mean, and what are all these people here doing?
Well, instead of saying what is Kodaly, as you know, but our listeners may not know, Kodaly is a person. Zoltán Kodály, noted Hungarian composer, was a revolutionary figure in music education in Hungary. These ideas were not unique to Kodaly, but what was unique to his work is that he was an ethnomusicologist as well as a composer, living in a country in a time where he felt that the songs and the folk song and the language, the idiomatic things about Hungary were being lost because Hungary had been invaded first by one country, then another. And he felt that as a composer, Hungary did not have a national compositional style. He felt, Beethoven's music sounds like German folk, based on German folk music. England has a national style rooted in its folk music, and he felt that the folk music of Hungary was being lost. Mm-hmm. And he was afraid that, that as a country, that Hungary wouldn't have a musical identity. Also, he felt that the rate of music literacy in that country was declining, and he was afraid that not only would there not be music, but there would be no one to write it, there would be no one to listen to it, there would be no one to come to an orchestra concert, even if you had trained musicians to be in an orchestra. So he was interested in the ideas of national music literacy and having a musically literate population. So there wasn't a big divide between these are musicians and they know how to do music, and these are everybody else. Right. His idea was that everyone could read and write music. The population would be literate.
Right.
So there would be an audience for this music that would be made.
Right. A real visionary.
In his time. And he was a very powerful political figure. So he was able to do these things in a time where they were not popular ideas. Instead of saying, here's the one new Hungarian language, you're not allowed to speak your regional dialects. He was out there looking for those regional dialects in a time when it was not a popular thing to be doing. And managed to convince powers that be that every teacher should receive training in this way of teaching. Kodaly himself did not teach children. He was a theory professor at the institute, but he saw this need for this because the brightest and best music students were coming to college with big gaps in their musical skills. And so he began to ask questions and pull together a team of experts. We would call that best practice today.
Right.
But Kodaly basically sent people all around the world. So a lot of times when you think of people talk about the Kodaly approach, they think do, re, mi, re, do, and I'm showing hand signs while I'm doing it. Right. People have seen the Kodaly hand signs. Well, they're not Kodaly hand signs. They're from John Kerwin in England, and Sarah Glover used the letter. The rhythm reading system that we use in Kodaly, sometimes people will hear the counting rhythm. Instead of counting, they'll say ta, ta, ti, ti, ta, ticka, ticka, ti, ti, and they'll say, they're using Kodaly. No, that's from France. And it was not for children, it was for conservatory students in the highest levels of musicianship. So there's a few little misconceptions because people might think that this is a child's way of learning this. Well, it does start in childhood. That was another big premise of Kodaly's idea because he surrounded himself with people who were experts in child development. People doing this work at the same time were like Maria Montessori was looking at child development. So Kodai's idea sort of had to do with matching the musical skills to the age in which the learner might be most likely to master them, and sequencing that over a period of preschool, really Kodai said from birth, but sequencing that musical learning over many years, rather than just, singing a few songs and learning a few little games, and then suddenly we get to high school or middle school in this country, and now we're going to teach kids how to read music. That's not how we learn how to read language. Imagine if we learned how to talk and then we didn't learn any notation until 7th grade, and now we're going to teach you all the words you know and how to write them. So unfortunately, that's kind of been our approach. So when people from our country stumbled upon this approach by meeting Kodai at an international conference, they were flabbergasted by the things that very young children were able to do. And they were like, our students are learning that in college. Tell us how to do it. So Kodai met with a man named Alex Ringer. Dr. Alex Ringer was a musicologist, University of Illinois. He gathered some grant money to send young American teachers in their 20s to live and work in Hungary. And there was no school for this. This was just like, here you go, here's your host family. You'll be watching teaching in Hungarian. But it's such beautiful, effective teaching that it actually transcends the language.
Right,
you could actually see exactly what so these master teachers came back. So Ringer sent a group of students. Another person, Denise Bacon, got a Ford Foundation grant to send another group of students from the East Coast. So there were about 3 or 4 at that time in the early 1960s and through the 1960s and into the early 70s that began to sort of go to Hungary and try to unpack what was going on here. And then over the years, those teachers came back with the purpose of designing American curriculum. So rather than based on Hungarian folk songs, these early Kodai pioneers in this country were gathering and analyzing and indexing American folk songs. And writing a curriculum for American schools. In fact, one of our faculty members here at the West Texas Kodai Initiative is Jill Trinka, and Dr. Trinka was one of the first members of the Ringer Fellows that Dr. Ringer got funding, and so she went as a young woman in her 20s. She went in age 21 and lived and studied in Hungary for a year, and then came back to the United States and has devoted her entire life to this. She was my teacher, and now she is here as the teacher of my students, and she is still spreading this lessons that she learned in her own training in Hungary with decades of American Kodai teachers. And it's sort of like anything else. You can sort of see schools of thoughts. You know who are the Trinka students all over the country. You can spot them. By the way, we all look alike in some significant ways in our teaching. And it's like that with a handful of these master teachers. Dr. Trinka's teacher in folk music and transcription was a scholar named Laszlo Vikar. László Vikar was Jill's teacher, and his teacher was Kodai.
There you go. Yeah.
So there we have it.
Well, so what a success this has been on all sorts of things. You were telling me when we talked earlier that you really wanted this to be a success on many, many levels, one of which was you didn't want to have to meet in the local ISD school cafeteria.
Right.
And so here we are at Buddy Holly Hall, and that didn't just happen by magic.
No, it did
you
not.
made this happen. How did you do it?
Well, thank you for saying that I made it happen, but it really takes a village to do this kind of thing. We started this program. The West Texas Kodai Initiative was initially started by a handful or consortium of school districts. Some of those districts were as far away as McKinney. Odessa Ector County was part of it. Lubbock was part of it. Seminole was part of it. And it kind of came from the fact that there were some teachers there who had done their training with me, and they had done their training in Princeton, and I taught a course in Portland, and I taught another course in Pennsylvania. And so when I got to Lubbock, Texas, which was 29 years ago, this is just part of my teaching. And if somebody wanted to study this approach, I would say, well, I teach in a course in Princeton, and they would buy plane tickets and come to Princeton and go. Mm-hmm. And Fred Harden at that time was working in LISD, and he said, why are we buying plane tickets to send people to study with you in New Jersey? You live here. And I explained to him that one person is not a Kodaly certificate level of study.
Right.
We can talk more about this in a minute, but this is a very deep dive course that involves pedagogy. In other words, what are we going to teach in every grade and how are we going to teach it? But also folk music, art, music, and materials, where the students are taking dictation, they are transcribing, they are conducting, they are collecting song material, they are analyzing it. They have a solfege class, which is like if you're a music major, maybe you dread your oral skills, but this is a different way of getting at the oral skills that really, really facilitates growth very quickly. They study conducting in the course of their study with us, and did I say pedagogy? I think I already did. And on top of that, they sing in a chorus. So our students in the course here have been here since 7:50 this morning, and every hour and 15 minutes they've changed to a different class. And then they go home and they practice and do homework. It is very, very intensive. And so my answer to Fred Harden was, well, it's not just me. I can do a workshop, I'm happy to do it. I can do an in-service training, but for teachers to really understand the aspects of this work and how it comes together, I wanted them to have the world experts in all of those topics. So it's not just Susan doing a workshop in all of these areas. I'm a pedagogy specialist. We have here solfege and musicianship specialists. We have Dr. Gary Packwood here conducting the choir this year. We've had a variety, Rick Biella, we've had Nike St. Clair, we have people from all over the place conducting our choirs because we want the kids to see, our students and our teachers, that the Kodaly approach is a philosophy. The teacher makes the decisions. It doesn't come in a box.
Right.
We can't just come in and say, oh, I'm doing Kodaly, like we're doing the Hokey Pokey or something. and for them to see it in a lot of different contexts with different teachers was very important to me. So that's when we set about, and again, Fred Harden said, and this was 21 years ago when we brought our first kind of pilot class, and then in 2005, we started our certification courses, which I'll tell you a little about that in a minute. But he said, what do we need to do this? And I said, I just don't think we could do it here. I need 10 tuned pianos in one place. And he's like, I got a truck, let's go. Because the district was able to pull together things, bring them to the ATC, and so forth and so on. What else do you need? Well, I need a faculty of 8 or 9 people. Okay, we're going to have to find some money. And so Texas Tech came on board, and through our guest artist funding and through the support of then Director Bill Ballinger, now Director Andy Stetson, we were able to use some of our funding to bring in guest artists. And so it became a sort of an operation where everybody was pooling the resources that they had. And at the end of the day, it was important to me that teachers who are, by the way, giving up their very, very precious time in the summer. This course is 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, followed by homework, and it lasts for 2 weeks. And it was very important to me that teachers who were willing to dedicate that kind of time, and by the way, the certification course is 3+ summers. This is graduate level music teaching. Many of these kids are students or teachers in the course are taking the course for master's level or doctoral level credit. So it's tough. Yeah. And it was very important to me that they be able to do this work in an environment that was worthy of them, that would inspire them, that would take them out of that grind of the day-to-day where they have a lunch duty or in their music classrooms, and be in the most beautiful place we could have. So we had started the certification program back in 2005, and over the course of years, it kind of ran its course as far as the 3-year plus certificate requirements. Mm-hmm. By running its course, I mean all the teachers stayed and they all had their certification. So we're like, well, what's now? The Kodaly training doesn't end with that. That's the beginning. And so then over the next few years or so, we just brought in special guest artists, and we did shorter workshops with them that sort of didn't lead to certification, but they just went deeper into the study of various aspects of this. And that became our offering with the Kodaly Institute here, the Kodaly Initiative here. Then as time went by, through attrition, teachers left, mm-hmm. changes were made, and Dr. Kathy Rollo came back and said, it's time. And our music supervisor then, Andrew Babcock, at that time, was here and said, yeah, we have a lot of teachers that haven't had this training.
Yeah.
They need their levels again. So to be honest with you, I didn't exactly leap with joy at that, because it takes a lot of people working together to make something this classy happen. So the folks at LIPA, our beloved Kathy Gilbreth, your listeners will recognize her name, because she was central to the vision and the building and the completion of this building that we're sitting here now. Kathy connected us with friends from LIPA. LIPA became part of the consortium that helped to sponsor it. The people who run the Buddy Holly Hall made things happen for these teachers to have this beautiful space to rehearse in, to learn in, to teach in. And so we all come, our motto is that when I was lobbying for this, I said, come on, you guys, teachers deserve nice things. And that all kind of coincided with COVID and kind of coming out from COVID. And if you could think back for just a minute what it would be like to be a teacher during COVID. We didn't know what Zoom was. We were learning it as we went. People didn't have all of a sudden online music lessons just ready to deliver to your second grader who's sitting home at the kitchen table, and maybe they're doing it and maybe they're not. I mean, it was a very, very challenging time for teachers. We're still coming back from that. But you're talking about people who are wounded, who have been struggling, who have been keeping it going through the toughest of tough times. And that's when we started back with the levels. I was like, welcome back. You thought that was bad. Now we're going to really challenge you here. And so it was very important to me that whatever we asked them to do be done in the classiest way, in the way that honored them. So we didn't have a juice box at the beginning down in the cafeteria. We had a cocktail party in that gorgeous front overlook. We have beautiful opportunities for a drawing every day to inspire the teachers, just for something fun at the end of every day. Local vendors have given us things like iPads and speakers and spa treatments and welcome baskets and wine and, things to just sort of remind the teachers that, you're not a teacher 365. You're an artist. You're a human. You deserve nice things. That was really part of Kodaly's at the heart of Kodaly's vision. He was a person who valued not only the development of the mind and the ear, but the soul. He was very aware of the power of music to touch the soul of a child, and also central to this approach is that only the best is good enough for children. And so we can't give them that if the people who are doing the teaching are always under duress and always under pressure. So we're trying to find ways to elevate the environment in which they teach every day, but especially these 2 weeks.
Well, we have like a minute left. And so I did want to get to the fact that there is a public component to this.
Yes,
you can
and
have
thank
a little
you.
concert, right?
Yes,
Tell
and
us
I'll
about that.
throw back to what you said about the West Texas Children's Chorus, because I want to pitch for that too.
Right.
Every Tuesday, Kodaly-trained teachers, a staff of 8 Kodaly-trained teachers, come together, Lake Ridge Global Methodist Church, I believe it's called now, and they host us. We rehearse. We have classes from kindergarten all the way through college. And these children that are in the West Texas Children's Chorus are taught by these wonderful teachers with master's degrees in this Kodaly way. We tour, we travel, we're performing at ACDA next year, American Choral Directors. It's just an outgrowth of the training of the teachers that we train students as well. So we would welcome kids from all over the West Texas area to join us. That begins in August. But before that, this week, the West Texas Kodaly Initiative has hosted a thing called Summer Sing. And Summer Sing is full of children from 3rd grade and up whose teachers or families knew about the course. We've advertised it a little bit. They've come together for fun for 1 week. And at the end of this week, they will be joining the adult teacher choir for a concert here in Buddy Holly Hall, right here in Crickets where we are. So at 11 o'clock on Friday, free of charge, we would like to invite the public to come. The kids will be singing, their parents will be here, the teachers will be singing, and again, what a way to support the music teachers in this town. Come and see what they're doing. Bring a friend, join the children's chorus, spread the word. Music is where it's at. It's the healing thing, it's for everyone, it's from birth all the way to the end of our lives, and this Kodaly approach ties it all together.
Friday at
11
a.m. in the Crickets
Crickets
Theater.
Theater.
All right. Our guest on the front row today, Susan Brumfield, who is the vision and the architect of the West Texas Kodaly Initiative, professor of music at the Texas Tech University School of Music. Susan, thank you for being our guest.
Thank you, Clint. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you at the concert.